Hello everyone and welcome back to another Too Good for Theaters video here. Today we're going to be breaking down the Patriots' final preseason football game here against the Washington Commanders. So let's get right into it. So starting off the night here, we're going to be talking about the quarterbacks between Drake Maye and Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett actually took the opening drive of the game, which turned out to be his only drive of the game. Gerard Mayo said he would only get 1 to 2 drives tonight anyways. However, there was a little bit of an injury scare, so I'm sure that kind of factored into it in cutting Jacoby Brissett off short here. However, I felt like Jacoby Brissett made a couple of plays on this opening drive that really put the Patriots in a good position to potentially have a scoring drive early on here. And unfortunately, some players around him kind of just failed him more so, but had a really nice job early on in the drive of identifying a Washington blitz, in which he was able to hit Antonio Gibson out of the backfield, kind of in the flat, which looked a little bit like a wheel route. And Antonio Gibson had a lot of room to run there. So real nice job by Jacoby Brissett kind of identifying the Washington blitz. And that's what you're going to get from Jacoby Brissett. I believe he kind of checked the play a little bit to get Antonio Gibson open with room to run there. And did a real nice job of kind of extending that drive and allowing the Patriots to kind of move the football down the field there. Antonio Gibson had a couple of nice runs mixed in there. Some pretty solid run blocking on those plays. However, the offensive line really did not have a good night. I'll get into that a little later here. But then, I believe it was a 1st and 10 around the 50-yard line, and Jacoby Brissett actually took a real big hit. It resulted in a sack where City So was actually pulling to kind of try and get that edge defender, meet him with the block. However, I believe he tripped over one of the other interior offensive linemen and was not able to get out for that kick-out block, which just allowed the edge player to get to Jacoby Brissett without being touched, and Jacoby Brissett took a really big hit. There was clearly some discomfort in that shoulder. He stayed in with that drive, but I believe that was probably the hit that really took him out of the night there. He hit Jaheim Bell for like a scat route on what I believe was a flood concept on the second play of that series right there. And then he actually missed KJ Osborne on a deep ball down the field. However, I wouldn't classify it as a miss whatsoever. I'm not sure what KJ Osborne was doing there. I don't know if his other hand was potentially being held by the corner, but going up with one hand on that strike that Jacoby Brissett threw, you got to go up with two hands and make that play. Jacoby Brissett really put that ball where it needed to be, and I'm not sure what KJ Osborne was really thinking there, why he only went up with one hand. It was certainly a catchable ball if he goes up with two hands. So I really don't hold that throw against Jacoby Brissett. It was a dart. I thought the ball was placed right where it needed to be, and that would have really set up the Patriots for a potential scoring drive. It was a throw probably around 20, 25 yards down the field. Probably would have put the Patriots deep in Washington territory there. And it really would have gave Jacoby Brissett some confidence, I feel. Jacoby Brissett has not had himself the best preseason this season so far. However, if you get a scoring drive on the one drive that you're playing tonight, I'm sure that would have given him a lot of confidence and the coaching staff a lot of confidence to potentially name him as the starter in week 1 here. But moving on to his competition here, Drake Maye, I would once again probably won the night. However, he was given a lot more opportunity than Jacoby Brissett, but he performed really well again, and it's another encouraging sign here. It looks like he's taken even more steps forward in terms of understanding the offense and kind of just showing his ability to kind of play make tonight. That was very evident on a couple of plays that I'll get into. But the first real play that I wanted to highlight, it was the 3rd and 14 play here, deep in New England territory. I believe they were inside their own 20 here, and really stepped up, pump faked on a 3rd down play. I believe Washington was just playing straight up coverage on the play. I don't think that there was any blitz. Did a real nice job stepping up in the pocket, pump fake, kind of one of those exaggerated pump fakes that almost looks like he's about to throw it, then he kind of tucks it under, scrambles up the middle for 14 yards and picks up the 1st down. Real nice job by Drake Maye there, clearly showing off his athleticism and showing that he has the ability to kind of scramble around there and pick up some yards with his legs. And that extended the drive, so real nice play there. And he ended up going 5 of 6 for 71 yards through the air on that drive, and had himself a very good connection with Jalen Polk and Demario Douglas on what appeared to kind of be the same concept, really. It was more so kind of just crossing routes. It looked like some flood routes across the field, but real nice job there. Put the ball right on Jalen Polk for the first play. I believe it was a pickup of around 20 or so yards. Real nice connection between them two. You love to see the rookies kind of connecting, and hopefully this is going to be the face of what your offense might look like coming up in years future here. And then he also hit Pop Douglas on what appeared to be the same kind of play. It was another crossing route, and Drake Maye really just did a nice job of kind of putting the ball where it needed to be. You could say it was a little bit behind Pop Douglas, but I mean he was just so wide open there that you're just making sure that he has the ball. And it was kind of towards the sideline, so kind of leading him really probably would have just let him out of bounds, but just put the ball right where it needed to be in another big play there to Pop Douglas. So very encouraging signs from Drake Maye, kind of understanding that offense. And I'm interested to see if that's kind of one of those plays when Drake Maye inevitably does get in. Is that one of his go-to plays, really? Because he looked very comfortable on that. The offensive line gave him solid protection. And then later on in the drive, when I believe they are inside the 20, the scoring play, they actually moved Kevin Harris out of the backfield and set him up out wide. Ran a little bit of a hitch route. Drake Maye put the ball right on him. Kevin Harris makes a move, then actually is able to dive into the end zone after picking up some more yardage. And it actually led to Drake Maye's first passing touchdown as a Patriot, which was a very encouraging sign. And Drake Maye looked very much the part of the potential franchise quarterback in that first drive here. I don't want to say he struggled the rest of the night, but I would say more so the offense just struggled around him. And it certainly was not Drake Maye's fault. He had a real nice connection later on, I believe, with Jalen Polk once more on an out route. I believe it was on, probably the fifth or fourth offensive drive there for him. But just a real nice job by Drake Maye on the night. Obviously had that big play where he kind of showed what made him the third overall pick. Scrambling out of the pocket to his left, kind of throwing across his body on a deep ball down the field to KJ Osborne, who broke away from a defender. And that would have been his second passing touchdown of the night, but lo and behold, another illegal formation against Chukwuekorfor there, and the play had to come back. So really just did not go well for Drake Maye the rest of the night. And I thought that he made all the plays that he needed to be. I thought that the offensive line did a real poor job tonight, kind of just letting him and Jacoby Brissett down with all the penalties. I believe that there was actually 10 penalties against the Patriots in this game for 157 yards total. A couple of those were late defensive penalties that I'll get into later, but I would say the majority of them actually went against the offensive line. And if there was probably a lot of penalties actually not accepted by Washington too. So I would say if Washington actually accepted all the penalties on the Patriots' first team offensive line, they might have had like 9 penalties in the first half here. It was a total disaster for the offensive line in the first half. And it's from guys who you wouldn't expect it to. I believe Michael Onwenu actually had an illegal formation too, which is surprising. But Chukwuekorfor got called for a couple of those. Layden Robinson, as much as I said he played well last week, he played that much worse this week. I mean, whether it was run blocking or pass blocking, he got beat in a multitude of ways. And I remember there was a kick-out block on a run play which he was not able to get over on, in the defensive lineman. Absolutely, I believe it might have been Jermichael Hasty in the backfield. Got to Jermichael Hasty rather early on in the running play, which resulted in a run stuff. Then he got beat on just a straight-up passing play where he got beat one-on-one, I believe. And actually, I think it resulted in a QB hit on Drake Maye. And luckily, I think that there was a penalty on one of the other Washington defensive linemen, but that could have been big, potential big hit against Drake Maye, given up by Layden Robinson there as well. And unfortunately, some more bad news here along the offensive line. Sidney So actually went down with an ankle injury here. I think it was on the final drive in which Drake Maye was trying to lead them on a 2-minute drill heading into halftime there. But I believe Sidney So, it looked like the play looked rather clean. It wasn't like anyone got wrapped up with him or he kind of fell over one of his linemen later on in the day. However, I believe it was one of his ankles kind of did look a little agitated when he was getting driven back by a defensive lineman, and that might result in where the injury kind of occurred. So Patriots really can't afford to lose any offensive line depth here, and unfortunately Sidney So does go down with an ankle injury. this is a big injury here. Cole Strange, another guard who's already not playing due to an injury. And the Patriots are really don't have much depth at guard right now. So it's going to be interesting whether or not they have to keep another offensive lineman on this roster here for the 53-man cut down. Or whether or not they're going to have to kind of hang on to another offensive lineman here because of the City So injury. And unfortunately, that might kick off another player deserving of a roster spot off the team because of that. But really poor night from the offensive line in general. And I would say that the offense, for the most part, kind of had a rough night. Joe Millen made some plays later on in the game, hit Javon Baker for a couple of plays. And that was an encouraging sign. However, Joe Millen really, I wouldn't say it was his best night. He had a couple of passes batted at the line of scrimmage there and just had some throws in which there was some straight-up drops or kind of threw behind some players. And it was kind of an uneventful night for the rest of the offense. Terrell Jennings had a couple of nice runs in there. JaMychal Hasty had a nice run in there. And Jaheim Bell had a nice little drag route catch for around 20-ish yardage. But real uneventful night from the offense in the second half there. And really didn't have a lot of notes, positive notes to say. Just kind of a couple more penalties that were declined along the offensive line there. So overall, the Patriots have to start putting up more points. I understand it's just preseason and stuff like that. But, I mean, it's looking like this offense might correlate to last year's in the ability to not put up points on the scoreboard. So we're really going to have to see come week one what this offense is looking like. And hopefully the Patriots will be able to determine who their starting quarterback is going to be over the next couple of days. So moving to the defensive side of the ball, I felt like the Patriots starting defense, or the quote-unquote preseason starting defense, did a real nice job against Washington in the first half. Joe Giles Harris continues to impress here. Got himself a couple of tackles, made some real nice run stuffs, and then he was actually able to intercept Washington Commanders QB Driscoll there. And he's someone who actually snuck his way onto my 53-man roster. I think he had a really good preseason. I know the coaching staff loves him, Gerard Mayo and Dante Hightower in particular. And he's just made play after play for this preseason and has really done a nice job in which I feel like has put him on the 53-man roster, just adding to the linebacker depth on this team, in which Sione Takitaki being hurt still. You might even see Sione Takitaki be on IR for a portion of the season, in which Joe Giles Harris and Raekwon McMillan get their roles potentially expanded here. And that'd be very encouraging for the Patriots. Another linebacker who played really well tonight, and unfortunately I believe he did get injured towards the latter part of the game, was Christian Ellis. I believe he actually had a total of around 9 tackles on the night. Did a real nice job there in terms of just kind of stuffing the run and being a playmaker and putting an end to a couple of Washington Commander plays there. Unfortunately, I do think that he went down after making a pretty nice quality hit on a Washington Commanders. It was either a wide receiver or a running back, but did a real nice job there. And unfortunately, he goes down with an injury. Hopefully, it doesn't impact his chances of making this roster here. But another really encouraging night from some of the young corners on this team. With that being Marco Wilson, who played with the starters. Alex Austin had some mixed coverages with the starters as well as the second unit. And Isaiah Bolden, I think, played exclusively with the second unit. But all three of them had really good nights tonight. I believe they didn't. Maybe Isaiah Bolden and Alex Austin allowed 1 reception each. But they both had a couple of pass breakups, some real nice coverages. I don't think that Marco Wilson even really got targeted at all. Or he might have had that one where, unfortunately, for the Washington wide receiver, he did step out of bounds, but he did have some good coverage. I believe it might have been Byron Pringle there. He did get beat, and Byron Pringle made a real nice play on the ball. However, Marco Wilson did a nice job of kind of guiding him out of bounds, and it was called for an illegal touching of the play there. So I would say some really positive nights from some young corners here. And Shaun Wade had a real nice kind of pass screen blown up right there where I think the offense absolutely just missed him on a screen block there and was able to take down the receiver behind the line of scrimmage. So another encouraging sign from Shaun Wade there. In this secondary, I think that the depth really shows here. Did a real nice job. and guys continue to make plays for this roster spot. So kind of picking the odd man out of that group might be really difficult for this Patriots coaching staff here. And in my opinion, I have all three of them, that being Marco Wilson, Alex Austin, and Isaiah Bolden on the roster. And hopefully we get to see them at times throughout the regular season here, either filling in as some depth pieces or if they're able to kind of work their way up the depth chart here. But that would be an encouraging sign for this Patriots, especially since they have a pretty young secondary at the moment. And just adding more depth to it always is going to help. Another guy who had a real nice night, I felt, was actually Sam Roberts. And whether or not that's a positive sign that he was playing as much as it was in this final preseason game, he did come up with a multitude of run stuff still. And I felt like Sam Roberts had himself a pretty solid night. Was encouraged to see that. Really hasn't been one of those guys that I've been talking about along the defensive line, just because I feel like it's a real long shot that he does end up making this roster here, but had himself a good night, kind of showed off some of the qualities in which that we really haven't seen much so far in this preseason. So just a good night for Sam Roberts. Got him kind of tallying up a couple of run stuffs. Marcellus Dial had himself a pretty, I don't want to say a poor night, but he did struggle at times. He got flagged for, I believe, 2 DPIs later in the game. He did have himself a pass breakup. However, it did look like he was a little, a couple steps behind there, but he did show good recovering speed there and was able to break up a deep ball to one of the Washington wide receivers. But Marcellus Dial, I feel like, kind of struggled tonight. And he had some plays where he just has to kind of get his head around. And I remember one of the plays where Joshua Bledsoe actually did what Marcellus Dial couldn't. He was kind of turned away from the quarterback, but did a nice job of not bumping into the receiver and kind of just put his hands up and broke up a play without even facing the quarterback. And since he didn't make contact with the receiver, there was no DPI. But Marcellus Dial, when he was doing the same thing, I think he made a little more contact with the receiver, and the receiver did a better job of kind of slowing down to let Marcellus Dial kind of run into him and kind of drawing that penalty there. But whenever you're kind of put in that situation, you're kind of beat, and Marcellus Dial kind of has to do a better job of kind of staying in front of his man and not being allowed to be put into that position there. So some takeaways from the Patriots defensive coaching staff on Marcellus Dial. It's a real long shot that Marcellus Dial makes his roster. I don't think that there's any chance that he really does. But I can certainly see him returning as a practice squad player here, and that'd be very nice. I doubt that any other team around the league would put him on an active roster right now, so I say that there's a very good chance that he does return to the Patriots practice squad here, as well as a number of different players that I have talked about already. If they do not make the roster, I say that there's a pretty solid chance that there are going to be some practice squad players here. And lastly, kind of this last point of the night, Azizi Hearn really had himself a rough game, and that last drive in particular, that might have just straight up cut all his chances of making this roster. I don't think that there was a solid chance whatsoever for him to make the roster in general, but if there was ever a chance, that put an end to it. He got called for a multitude of penalties, got absolutely beat on a couple of plays by Martavis Bryant, one for the touchdown, which wasn't bad coverage, but just absolutely got bullied. I mean, Trace McSorley did bully him as well, and the entire Washington Commander sideline was letting him know about it. And Azizi Hearn really had himself a rough night tonight. All right, everyone. That was my analysis of the final Patriots preseason game of the 2024 season here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, especially when it comes to the Drake Maye, Jacoby Brissett QB battle here. And once again, thank you so much for watching. It is much appreciated. And as the channel continues to grow, I look forward to kind of making some more Patriots content for you, especially with the regular season coming up. So hopefully I'll see you all then. And once again, thank you so much.